Hello and welcome to the Briefing Room. I'm Bill Froehlich, and this is our weekly roundup of some of the stories that have been making headlines across northern Michigan. And at the table with us this week, Jeremy McBain has made the trip down from the Petoskey News-Review. Good morning, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. It's nice to have you. I try to time it so I don't invite you when we have a blizzard.
I've noticed that, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I think maybe the one time I did that a couple of years ago, we learned our lesson. That was not a good idea.
You got called a few names.
Well, that was not the first time, but regardless, you have made it. Not terrible weather today, but we have had a lot of snow in the last couple of weeks.
We have.
Winter has arrived.
I think, thankfully, the ski hills have been just booming up in my neck of the woods, which means the economy is probably doing quite well. The downtown areas have been looking very good as far as traffic goes and number of people out, and
Sure.
You can tell they're skiers based on the coats that they're wearing. So this has been very good weather for our economy.
Is it too soon to know, or will we just never hear from the ski resorts how bad it is just because we didn't have Thanksgiving and all of December? I just don't know if that's one of those things that they'll never tell us, like, oh, everything's great, rose-colored glasses, or if we'll hear, at the end of this season, we really tanked this season because we lost 40 days at the start of the year that we normally have.
Well, they didn't. They lost some of those days, yes, but if you remember, they had a lot of snowmaking going on, and a lot of them were open on the weekends. Now, how much that impacted their traffic, we may not ever know. I mean, they may not want to talk about it, but when you've got snow like this, and based on just my anecdotal information, it appears that there's more people.
They're doing well.
Yeah, they're doing well. So I think if you lost those 40 days, but if your traffic's increased over the next 40 days.
Yeah. Well, we built up that excitement.
Yeah. Yeah. So they could end the year on a positive note.
What is the culture like in downtown Petoskey, for example, at winter time? Do people actually come up to the resorts and spend the night, the weekend, the full week, and then obviously the hope is they drift into the storefronts in the downtown area? Do you find that does in fact happen?
I do find that does in fact happen. If you go down to the restaurants downtown, you'll see a lot of skiers, people up for the week even, out skiing, or snowmobiling too. Can't forget about snowmobiling, 'cause that's another big driver. You see that more in Petoskey, Harbor Springs, and Boyne City, because of the ski hills. Petoskey's a nice, so it's the large town of the area, so a lot of the skiers will come into there. Charlevoix doesn't really get as much skiing business. East Jordan, I think, gets a little bit of the skiing business, but I think it gets a lot more of the snowmobile business.
Okay.
And of course, Gaylord gets a ton of snowmobile business.
Yeah.
So I think that you do see that when you go downtown. You see people coming up for the whole week, if not just a weekend.
So it's busy.
Oh yeah. It's nice that the shoulder season's over. So now we've got some snow, and it will last us until the next shoulder season, which will be the snow's gone, and before the summer season starts up, where it's nice and warm and the boaters come in.
Now, if only our timing was a little bit better with all of the other issues going on in the state, we could melt down the snow and purify it into drinking water to send to Flint. But right now we need the snow.
Yes, yeah.
So Petoskey is like many other communities here across the north where we're doing something to try to help what's going on in Flint, right?
Yes, there are a few groups of people up in Petoskey who are gathering up water and shipping it down to Flint. Northern Michigan is a very giving community, and when we see somebody right in our backyard hurting like the city of Flint is hurting, we band together and help out in any way we can. I know that there's good people going down there to pass out the water, and they're raising money through the food banks and such.
Sure. Is it, does it seem to be a well-coordinated effort as opposed to let's collect water for Flint and then nobody really knows what to do with it or where to go with it? For example, our church is doing something with the larger church community to send water down to that specific church and those members of that church, but it's almost this abstract concept of we're going to send water to Flint, you know?
It seems to be a little more organized than that. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's a grand scale organization. You know, there's still groups of people getting together and saying they're going to do this, but it does seem to be a little more organized, and that you do know where the water's going and you do know where your money's going. I'm not really too worried.
Anyone in your area getting into the politics of what's going on in Flint? I mean, obviously that was part of the State of the State speech, and anything really from State of the State, whether it was you know, your local lawmakers or educators or anyone that dipped their toes into that water.
Well, you know, we've got a lot of conservative lawmakers in our area, and of course they've jumped on the bandwagon of, you know, protect the governor and we're doing all we can and such. And then of course you've got the those on the opposite side of the fence who are jumping on the pilot on the governor's bandwagon,
hanging from the town square.
Yeah, hanging from the town square, recall them, all that stuff. I've heard. I think that no matter where you go in the state of Michigan or even in the nation, you're going to find some sort of politics happening, especially when you've got such a big issue such as poisoning an entire community with lead.
Yeah.
It tends to bring out a little bit of political talk.
I know you pay a lot of attention to your website traffic and the analytics of what works and what doesn't. Does a story like the Flint water crisis still play well in Petoskey for readers?
It didn't at first. As the controversy ramps up, you see the numbers starting to go up. I would say it's a medium level story, in that it's not going to generate a ton of traffic, but it generates enough that I'm gonna
Keep
still
running
put
it.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna keep running it. Yeah.
What are the biggest stories of interest in this month, this calendar year?
Right now, it's snow and accidents. Road conditions are the main driver of traffic online. If you get a story up on road conditions, people are hitting that because they're wanting to know. I want to know before I leave work, what am I driving into? And generally, when you have accidents going, that goes along with road conditions. So that's a big driver of traffic and weather. That's on the top of everyone's mind. How I can figure it out, what's going to be the big story online, is I just go out to lunch and listen to what people are talking about, and I can pretty much guarantee that something along the lines of what they're talking about is getting a lot of hits on their website right now. And it's a lot of it's weather.
Yeah. That it makes me think that your online presence for any media, the online presence, the web apps or the mobile apps, things like that, and especially maybe in small town northern Michigan, that those are particularly helpful and popular for users, like you said, wanting to know what the weather is going to be like when you go home, and whether that's turning on local radio or clicking online at Petoskey News. That's the way to figure it out. Obviously, it's not necessarily a story that's going to be in the paper the next day that's going to be of any help to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different audiences, really. Your audience online is different than your audience in print. Audience in print is looking for a longer read and more in depth, more more of the why did this happen, and the audience online is really looking for something, what's happening right now, and how is it going to impact me, and I have maybe a minute to be able to take a look at it, and then I've got to go off and do something else. Right. So they're in and out real fast. So we have to write stories and put stories online that are different than stories that are in a print publication, just to reach the different kind of audience. So I can see that a story that's playing well in print, say, is an investigation story on Emmett County. It'll do well online, but it won't do quite as well as maybe a story on the weather, or a story on an accident, or a story on a crime incident that's going on. People want to know, why were there police cars down by the Walmart? They want to know. In and out. It's real quick. But I know that investigation story will play well in print. So we play it up. So you see two different kinds of products.
When it comes down to checking out those web visits and whatnot, we've talked about this before, but that's something you're doing every day, if not hour by hour, minute by minute.
Hour by hour, yeah. Yeah, we've got a screen in our newsroom that shows us live feed on what's happening on our website, how many people are looking at our website, what areas of the country they're coming from, or even the world they're coming from, and what stories they're looking at, whether the top 10 stories that they're looking at, and exactly how many people are looking at those stories. This is all in real time. Yeah. And so that all the reporters and all the editors can see that as it's happening.
I can imagine, I haven't witnessed it myself, but I'm imagining this scenario where the Weather Service puts out the winter weather advisory, and all of a sudden traffic spikes. People want to know what's coming, when it's coming, and maybe it goes both directions. You guys post something, and then the Weather Service gets some extra traffic too. But those kinds of things have got to play off of one another. Or when the big storm system moves in and the snow starts falling, maybe traffic spikes. Is that fair to say?
Oh yes. You can see the spike as soon as you post it on Facebook. That's another big driver of traffic. Is if we take it, we'll put it over on our Facebook page or any other social media, and within probably 10 seconds of posting that story, and if you know that it's a certain type of story, weather story, crime story, accident, something along breaking news like that, you can watch the counter just go boop. It's kind of neat to see.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, traffic is obviously a big issue, weather-related issue, traffic issues, but you've got another travel story going on in Emmett County with public transportation that's gaining some traction here in recent weeks. And I think we touched on it last time you were here too, but
I think we did.
Still an issue.
Yeah, it's still an issue. Emmett County has been discussing for quite some time public transportation. All of the counties around Emmett County have got some form of public transportation. When I say public transportation, it'd be like your beta buses here in Traverse City. But Emmett County commissioners have been very reluctant on bringing in such a service. So this organization called FEET came in and said, look, we'd like to do a survey to show if voters would like to see a ballot proposal for public transportation in Emmett County. And this took I want to say a couple of years trying to convince the commissioners just to do the stinking survey. And finally they did the survey, and the survey came out to show that yes, people would be interested in voting on it. Didn't really go into too much of what they're if they would vote yes or no for it. Is this an issue that you want to see addressed? Is this something that you would want to vote on? And yeah, a lot of them wanted to vote on it. So they've brought it back to the Emmett County Commissioners saying, look, we want We want this on the ballot. We want to give voters a chance to be able to vote on whether or not they want public transportation. Just give them a say.
Yeah.
The commissioners are finally starting to come around to it, but now they're saying, well, instead of us having our own public transportation, why don't we just have Straits Land? There's a transportation, and the name is slipping my mind now. It's out of Sheboygan area.
Not a private enterprise.
Yeah, private enterprise. We'll have them expand over into our area. I sort of think it's a public enterprise, but it's based out of Sheboygan.
Okay.
And we'll have them expand over in our area instead of us doing our own. So they're still kind of, it seems to be, it's just in my own editorial voice, they seem to be kind of waffling still on the issue. And a lot of people have said, wait a minute, why is it that you will spend millions and millions of dollars on an ambulance service based on a one-page proposal and millions of dollars on a dark sky park based on no proposal, but they have to beg you for just taking an issue to the voters on public transportation? They're not saying, we want you to fund it. They're saying, ask the voters if they want to do it. So it's kind of a confusing issue of what really they're thinking.
What the priorities are. Maybe if we put the Dark Sky Park on the public transportation route and drove more people to the Dark Sky Park.
That was a joke in the newsroom, actually. It was, yeah. Why don't they just say that they're giving rights to the Dark Sky Park, and all of a sudden they're going to get all the funding they want.
Exactly. All right, and another somewhat related to transportation issue that you mentioned before we started the show was this trolley that you have. Is that in the city of Petoskey?
Yes, it's downtown Petoskey has got a trolley. They've had it for many years. It's been in storage, and there's lots to talk about what they're gonna.
City owned?
Yeah. Yep.
What are the rumblings? Are we getting close to reviving it, or is it just?
I'm not going to hold my breath. It's been talked about for many years that we want to bring the trolley out and start using the trolley a lot more in the summers and use it to transport people from one end of the city to the next end of the city. I'll see it when I'll believe it when I see it.
Believe it when you see it?
Yeah.
Could happen, might not.
It could happen. I think it's a great thing. I'm glad they've got this trolley. I'm glad that they're talking about it. Use it.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
What else is going on in northern Michigan? News of the week from Charlevoix? Anything from your surrounding communities worth passing along to our viewers?
Well, there's a lot of great development going on over in Boyne City. It's such a dynamic town. That has been an incredibly impressive city for the past several years. Mm-hmm. The community has really come together along with their government to really do some great things, and it's a growing city. And in fact, I just pulled the census numbers from 2013 on there, and it's actually the largest in population for Charlevoix County now.
Oh, really?
And it's of the cities we cover, it's number 3 behind. Number 2.
Behind Petoskey?
Yeah, behind Petoskey. It's, I believe, and I may be wrong by a couple people here. It's just a few people over the population of Gaylord now. I mean, maybe like 5. I mean, it's nothing. The statistical amount is pretty wild on it.
Wow.
But so there's some great things going on in this city, and they're seeing a lot more growth. There's some development going on. They're in their waterfront. They're going to be they want to put in a park in the waterfront there, there was a development there. I can't remember the name of it now, which had been sitting idle for many years, similar to the Petoskey Hole, which is many people who know Petoskey is that big pit as you come into town. But this had been sitting idle for many years, and finally a couple of private individuals came together and said, well, we're going to buy it and we're going to give it to the city for a park. Or actually I think it was a deal for leasing as a park or something like that. I'm trying to remember the details here.
Sure.
Bottom line is it's going to become a park, which is really cool. And on top of that, you've got the CAT developments going on in there, which are going to bring in even more restaurant businesses, some brewery business. A couple of breweries are coming in there. Some housing, some more housing is going to be coming into the city. It's just I think a success story of Northern Michigan of what can happen when the community and the government get on the same page and they start working together for a common goal, which is the betterment of the city. And the petty arguing that goes on, typically, and when you get those two groups together, they kind of put that aside and then said we agree we have some disagreements, but we're going to come to some compromises, and with those compromises, we're going to move forward. And you've got Boyne City. You've got what's happening there.
That's pretty remarkable. I couldn't tell you the first time I went to Boyne City was probably shortly after moving to Northern Michigan, and that was, 13 years ago. I think they had the big tornado there that I had covered, and that was my first exposure to the community. But then, even then, that was the first talk of their vision for Boyne City and expanding the marina, and obviously that has happened, and lots of economic development issues have come to fruition in those past 10 years. I mean, there's a lot that's happened there.
Yeah, Petoskey's spending all this time talking about a trolley. And the time that they're talking about a trolley, Boyne City, it feels like Boyne City has accomplished 3 or 4 different things at the same time. That's not to say Petoskey's not doing some great things. Petoskey is doing some great things. I mean, they're doing, there's going to be a partnership with some breweries and such and businesses in order to have a little festival next month in downtown Petoskey, which is going to be, it sounds like a pretty neat little festival of food and drinks and fun for all ages will be going on down there. But they're having all sorts of little events like that are going on that are they're great and fun for families. But it just seems that the overall big story there of Northern Michigan is Boyne City as far as success stories goes, economic success stories.
Yeah. Well, lots more to come from both of those communities, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, it really is when you look at the economics of the state of Michigan. Northern Michigan is, I think, an exciting place to live and to cover because there are so many projects that are right now are in the just getting planted stage,
right? And
there are going to be some exciting things in a lot of these towns throughout Northern Michigan happening once these projects start growing.
Sure. Well, I have full confidence you'll keep us informed on what's going on, but
in print and online.
Until you're back here at the table, we can tune in to PetoskeyNews.com and check you out on the web and in print. Thank you for coming in, Jeremy.
A pleasure.
Good to have you. Jeremy McBain has been our guest, editor of the Petoskey News-Review. I'm Bill Froehlich, and we'll see you next week right here on The Briefing Room.